not been long enough for me to feel so shy, but you can't control such things sometimes. As you can tell by this lighting, it is night here because I don't think I'll have any other time this week, and I really wanted to share this little list with you. I've compiled a list of 14 +1 books that I want to read before the end of the year. I say +1 because I'm reading one of them right now. Ideally, I will read about half of these. I think I could read all of them before the end of the year, but my mood when it comes to reading tends to change a lot, so I'm not pressuring myself, but I am pressuring myself to read half of them. Let's get started. First is Le Grand Monde by Alain Fournier. I've talked about this one fairly recently, but I've heard a lot of people recommend this for autumn, especially from English speakers, which is very interesting to me because French books tend to be popular, but I mostly hear about them from other French people and not English speakers. But when I have, like for Lie With Me, for example, they've been amazing books, so I'm sure this one is going to fall into that category because if it brought so much discourse in France to even have a translation, it's usually a good piece of literature, though I will say this is a classic, so that could also be a reason why it would be translated, but even then, not all classics are translated, and yeah, apparently this will be a good autumn read, so I'm hoping to get to it pretty soon actually. Pride and Prejudice. I read Emma earlier this year, which I loved, and this is obviously the most popular. I've never seen the movie, and by the movie I'm talking about the 2005 version, and because I've never seen the movie, I actually don't know the story at all. All I know is we follow Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, and that's pretty much all I know, but I really hope to get to this one this year. It's one of the classics that I really want to have read at the end of the year, so hopefully we'll be getting to that. I will be saying this about all these books because I'm hoping to get to all of them, but Pride and Prejudice is definitely one that I should pressure myself to read pretty soon. Le Parfum by Patrick Suskind. I think this is translated to perfume. It's originally a German piece of work. I thought it was like a classic, but I don't think it is. If I'm not mistaken, it's fairly recent. It says 1985 in here, so fairly recent. This follows a man who has a very developed sense of smell and he makes perfumes, but one day he starts making them in a very problematic way. That is to say, he starts killing people to make perfumes. I think this is going to be perfect for closer to spooky season, and that's when I'm hopefully going to get to it. I also love the cover of this book. The French cover is gorgeous. If you think of any autumn book, you most likely think of The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've yet to get to it, and my reading journey, so to speak, has been going on seriously for the last 5 years or so, and I really need to get to this one. It's one of those books that even if I don't end up loving it, I want to have read. But that being said, I think I will really like it. Anything that touches on academia and love of learning tends to be something that I find interesting, and mix that with a dark story, I think it's just going to be a book that I really enjoy. I will say, this is very stupid, but the reason that I didn't pick this up earlier is that I feel like it would be performative of me to read this in public, but the thing is it wouldn't, because I would actually be reading it, but at the same time I think it can be one of those books that's like, I'm pretentious, I'm reading The Secret History. A stupid reason not to pick this up, especially because, again, I would genuinely be reading it. But yeah, this one is also one that if I finish the year having not read it, I will be disappointed in myself. The Pumpkin Eater by Penelope Mortimer. Isn't this cover absolutely beautiful? I think it kind of matches me right now. I love a painting on a cover. I think that makes it so much more appealing to me. There's a blurb on the front that says, almost every woman I can think of will want to read this book. There's also a little quote that says, "Peter, Peter, pumpkin eater, had a wife and couldn't keep her." From what I know, this is a semi-autobiography or an autofiction, which is a genre I absolutely adore. So I'm really hoping this falls into one of the books that I end up loving. The Safekeep by Yael van der Woodsen. Every time I say her name, I want to say van der Woodsen. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2024. I think it features a sapphic love story, which is going to be perfect to read, and I'm really excited. I did read the first chapter, I think, and I really liked the writing, but I was in a reading slump, so I didn't continue it, but I really want to. Stoner by John Williams. This follows an English professor who is struggling with loneliness, I believe. Yeah, he kind of feels estranged, if I'm not mistaken, from people, and it's very reflective. I've heard it's beautiful. What more can I say? White Nights by Dostoevsky. This book is meant to alter your views on love, and if any book sets the challenge to do that, I will be sure to read it. On a similar vein, we've got Madonna in a Fur Coat. It sounds so good, and I've only heard good things, as I have with most of these, to be honest. And I will say that's one of the great things with social media is you don't have to go through a lot of the work to find recommendations of things you would like, because the algorithm does it for you. My current read is actually Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I'm loving this book so far. This is one of the classics that I have been pushing off reading because I felt I was not smart enough to. I always have this idea that classics are gonna be a lot more complicated than they tend to be, and the story in this one is so digestible and the writing makes it so immersive, and I'm really loving it. So I'm so glad that I've picked it up, because this was one that, again, I could not bear to finish the year without reading it. So really happy that I picked it up finally. La Danseuse by Patrick Modiano. This follows a ballerina dancer, and I think it follows the idea of not having reached your dreams. It's really short. I can probably read it in one sitting. If I ever find myself in a long train ride or something, we'll be picking this up. And I really love to follow any story following dancers, whether it be in movies and TV shows or books. So, really excited. Walking Through Water in a Pool Painted Black. This is yet another memoir. It says that it chronicles Cookie Mueller's high risk and high reward life in glorious Technicolor. I randomly heard about this on TikTok, and I have been looking forward to reading this ever since. A much more serious book I would love to read is Women Without Men. It follows the interwoven destinies of 5 women in Iran. I believe this is nonfiction. It's in line with the degree that I am doing for my master's, so it's just a book that sounds really interesting to me, and when I'm in the mood for some nonfiction, I will be picking this up. Yeah, I think it just sounds right up my alley, to be honest. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm waiting till we're closer to Halloween to read this. I think it's a gothic, eerie, spooky story, which I love, and I am looking forward to reading this book. And last but not least, Moi qui n'ai pas connu les hommes, I who have never known men by Jacqueline Hartmann. If you've not heard of this book, you might be some of the characters in this book because you are living under a rock. I am a little bit intimidated by this book. The reason that I haven't picked it up yet is because it's classified as science fiction, which is a genre that usually does not work for me. Not because I don't find the commentaries on society interesting, but because it tends to paint a very grim picture of the world, and I like to believe that we are heading towards something better, and if not, to harbor a false hope that we could be, because clearly the state of the world right now does not prove that societies are doing better. But that being said, I think this book will be really, really interesting, and because it's been so widely praised, I'm sure that I will be of those who end up enjoying it. But I just wanted to explain a bit of the reason why I still haven't picked it up, and that is the mighty list. When I made this list, I tried to think of books that I really wanted to read by the end of the year, and books that have completely different genres, so that I can just pick from this stack whenever I'm trying to pick my next reads and not feel like I'm reading the same thing over and over. But I also tried to pick based on content that I know I tend to gravitate towards more in the autumn and winter seasons, and that tends to be more reflective books and more dark stories. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.